Fresh strikes rocking Tehran hours after U.S. President Donald Trump warned Iran of a force that has never been seen before if Tehran retaliated against the assassination of the supreme leader. Iran confirmed that Ayatollah Ali Khamenei was killed in his office in the early hours of Saturday in the first wave of joint American-Israeli airstrikes. The head of the Revolutionary Guard and several senior officials were also killed. Iran's security chief vowed to strike the U.S. and Israel with unprecedented force, while the country's president claimed avenging Khamenei's killing is both a right and an obligation. A 40-day mourning period has been declared. Across Iran, reactions are sharply divided. Thousands took to the streets to mourn the leader's death. But in other parts of the country, other Iranians were seen celebrating the news in videos shared on social media. Large explosions were heard again in Tehran today. Israel says it has begun striking targets in the heart of the capital after clearing a path to the city. It says it's targeting Iran's land-to-land and land-to-air missiles. Iran now experiencing a near-total internet blackout for a second day. In Minab, Iranian officials say the death toll after a strike on a school yesterday has surged past 100. Most of the victims were schoolgirls. Israel's military says it is not aware of such a strike. Iran continuing its retaliatory strikes for a second day. Air raid sirens sounded in Jerusalem after missiles were launched toward Israel. Iran's army says it targeted U.S. bases in Iraq's Kurdistan region and in the Gulf. Explosions were also reported in Dubai, Riyadh, Manama, and near Doha. Drones struck Oman's port of Duqm, injuring a worker and damaging an oil tanker. Oman had not been hit in the first wave of Iranian strikes, a notable exception at the time, given its role as a regional mediator. The fallout ripping through global aviation. Dubai International Airport, the world's busiest international hub, has sustained damage and remains closed. Airports in Abu Dhabi and Kuwait were also hit. Flight tracking data show that airspace over Iran, Iraq, Kuwait, Israel, Bahrain, the UAE, and Qatar is largely empty. Thousands of flights have been cancelled or rerouted. The disruption stretches far beyond the Middle East. Air India has cancelled services from Delhi, Mumbai, and Amritsar to Europe and North America. Passengers were also stranded in Australia, Bali, and Bangkok. We're now joined by AP correspondent Jon Gambrell reporting for CNA Live from Dubai. Jon, thank you for joining us. Tell us more about the latest strikes in Dubai and across the Gulf. And what's the situation at Dubai's international airport?
Yes, we have seen multiple attempts by the Iranians to fire upon the UAE today. That includes some interceptions that I personally saw. Typically, it's a loud thump noise. And when you look up to the sky, you can see the cloud of debris, the pyrocumulus effect of that explosion. Now, there have been some injuries from falling shrapnel already. A couple of people in Dubai have been hurt this way, someone in Abu Dhabi. And we've also seen 2 people killed in Abu Dhabi yesterday from this falling shrapnel from these interceptions. And it's the same across the wider region. As you mentioned, just airspace is shut everywhere. And Dubai International Airport, which is home to the long-haul carrier Emirates, remains closed. Now, they're still trying to say that maybe they'll reopen tomorrow, but it really remains uncertain, particularly if this ongoing fire from Iran continues at the pace that it's going at. There are spans of a couple hours where you don't hear anything, and then suddenly it'll be 5, 6, 7 explosions all at the same time as they try to intercept these drones and missiles that are targeting this corner of the Middle East that long had advertised itself as a safe place in a very conflicted region.
Jon, as we mentioned, Oman was initially spared from the barrage of Iranian fire yesterday. How has the country and other Gulf nations reacted to these latest strikes?
Oman is very interesting. It was the key interlocutor in those ongoing, or had been ongoing, nuclear talks between Iran and the United States. And both countries had actually met a couple of days ago in Geneva, and the Omanis had gone to America to talk to J.D. Vance, and then had gone on, the foreign minister had gone on television to say that he thought a deal was close. Then this war started with the Israelis and the Americans launching these strikes on Saturday that killed the supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, and putting those talks indefinitely on hold. Now, these attacks in Oman on Duqm, which is a key logistical point for the U.S. Navy as it resupplies the USS Abraham Lincoln aircraft carrier in the Arabian Sea. And also, there was this attack on an oil tanker that's in the strategic Strait of Hormuz. And that's crucial because Iran has threatened to try to block or disrupt traffic through the Strait of Hormuz, through which a fifth of all oil traded passes. So that will have a knock-on effect if this war continues on the prices of global energy, particularly Brent crude and other natural gases. So it's really a key moment right now, and air travel is just disrupted. You mentioned all those long-haul carriers. This area in the Gulf Arab states has long been a key route on east-west travel. People flying from, for instance, America onwards to India, which is a popular route for Emirates. They can't get where they're going now. The airport remains shut, and it remains unclear when it'll actually reopen.
Now, John, as we wait for Iran to appoint its new leader, who could we expect to take over?
That's the big question. And previously, a lot of people had thought it was going to be the late President Ibrahim Raisi, who was a judiciary head who was involved in mass executions in the 1980s and really seemed to have Khamenei's seal of approval. Well, Raisi was killed in a helicopter crash a couple of years ago, so he got taken out of the equation. Now, there's a lot of different confusion and a lot of candidates. There's a couple that have been mentioned in media reports. And today, we did see a cleric get named to this three-person leadership council that's going to be running Iran until the Assembly of Experts picks a new supreme leader. Now, this cleric is not as well known as others. He's 60 years old. He was appointed by Khamenei onto the Guardian Council and had sort of had his blessing, but wasn't as prominent and wasn't as much of a name. One person who had been a name, though, was Mujtaba Khamenei, who is Khamenei's son. And we don't have any information yet on what happened to Mujtaba Khamenei. And the authorities have not published any pictures of him in the time since this war started yesterday.
Well, many thanks for that update. Jon Gambrell there covering the story for CNA live from Dubai. Demonstrations erupting in cities around the world, ranging from support for the strikes on Iran to outright condemnation. Pro-Iranian protesters tried to storm the U.S. consulate in Pakistan's city of Karachi. Officials say at least 9 people were killed in clashes after protesters attacked the perimeter of the building and were later dispersed. Shia Muslims make up roughly 15% of Pakistan's population, representing one of the largest Shia communities in the world. Street demonstrations in Indian-administered Kashmir saw several thousand Shia Muslims gather in a march, chanting slogans against the U.S. and Israel. Similar protests were held in other places across Kashmir and other parts of India. In Iraq, pro-Iranian protesters marched in large numbers and tried to enter the U.S. embassy in Baghdad's fortified Green Zone. Security forces used tear gas to push them back. Tensions also high in South Korea. Protesters gathered near the U.S. embassy in Seoul, warning that the conflict in the Middle East could set troubling precedents close at home. While supporters of Iran's exiled crown prince gathered near the Iranian embassy in Tokyo, celebrating the latest strikes by the U.S. and Israel.